Well, guys, it's a little after 7:30. We've still got people coming in. We've ended up with a lot of people interested in being here tonight. So I think we should probably go ahead and get started. We've got a lot of stuff to share this evening. Um, so I'll go ahead and kick things off. First, I just want to thank everybody for being here. For those of you who aren't aware, the conversations going on here are with some of the people who have been with us in the past. Which is really fun to see you guys here. Thanks for being on. What we wanted to do tonight, Ramses and I have been doing these trips now since about 2015, I think, and we're doing another one in February. And it's funny because we get so many questions about the workshops, but also about travel to Cuba. And in the process, we hear a lot of misconceptions about things. I'm often asked, how do you sneak down there? Well, everything we do is entirely on the up and up. So what we wanted to do tonight was to share with you a little bit about what we do to when we go down there, how we arrange for our groups to get there, and pretty much what it's like. So just to kick things off here, just start by introducing myself, and then let Ramses do the same. But my name is Rad Drew. For those of you who don't know, I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been traveling to Cuba for over 9 years now. My first trip was in 2014, and I've been down every year since, at least twice, with the exception of the pandemic year. And as Ramsey said, I fell in love with Cuba and her people, and I have many friends down there now that are like family. And I met Ramses, and we started photographing dancers, and that became another passion in all of the things that are Cuban. I enjoy photographing with a Fuji camera. I have a XT4 and an XT2 that's converted to infrared. But I also have grown up with the iPhone. I got my first iPhone in 2010, and it's with me all the time down there on any of my trips, and I've enjoyed using it quite a bit, as we both do. So that's me. Ramses?
Well, I have been doing this workshops for 25 years. I started long ago, basically when I came right out of school. At the beginning, I was just doing basically, just regular workshops, like showing the city, showing the culture, showing like kind of the basic stuff. And then I started doing some dance photo shoots. I realized that how much I liked it, and they liked me too, right? So that was the beginning of a beautiful relationship that evolved into, a lot of serious work. I have a book. I don't know if you guys have been able to see it. It's called Romance in Cuba, Dance, Romance in Cuba. I mean, later if you are interested, I can get you one. And it's been alive the minute I realized how much I like to shoot the dancers and how good, how easy, how comfortable I was with it. I just decided that it would have been a great idea to connect it with the workshop that I was already doing from actually many, many years before. And that's it. That's how it started, and it evolved into I've done musicians, I've done other different, but dance, it's always has a special place in my heart. And and I love it every single day. It's like I never get tired of it. And yeah, that's pretty much the story of the dance and my workshops.
Thank you, Ramses. So as we go on today, we're going to be sharing with you just some general things about travel to Cuba. We welcome your questions. We'd like you to hold them until the end of our little presentation, and then we'll take time to answer as many questions as we can in the time we have. Everybody has the opportunity to unmute yourself and chime in if you choose. So just know you can do that, and yell at us if you have something that won't wait, but let's otherwise wait until the end. So as I said, one of the questions that I get all the time is, how do you sneak down there? And I just wanted to let everybody know and assure you that everything we do is totally on the up and up. Everything travel to to Cuba from the United States is all governed by the Office of Foreign Asset Control in the United States. And they're the ones who determine how Americans can travel and what they can do when they're there. And so we travel down under a designation known as Support for Cuban People. So when you fill out your travel visa and that sort of thing, that's what you put on that form. When I first started going down there in 2014, you had to fly to Miami and then take a charter plane to Havana. But today, many U.S. airlines fly to Havana: American, Southwest, United, Delta, and there are more adding every day to that list. There's not a lot of documentation necessary. You do need a U.S. passport, and then you also get a tourist visa or a tourist card. It looks like this, and the way this works, when you're flying to Havana, in the last city you're in before you go to Havana. So if I fly from Indianapolis to Miami, when I'm in Miami, before I depart, at the ticketing gate, there is a kiosk there with someone who has these visas, and you buy it. The airline set the price. So I've paid as little as 50 and as much as $100, depending on the airline. And you get this thing and you fill it out, both sides of it the same. And you keep this with you when you go through customs. And then when you leave Cuba, you also present this on your way out. So you want to hold on to that and keep it with your passport. And that's it. There's really no other documentation that's required. When we go down, and all the time I've been traveling in Cuba, I've never had an incident or an issue with anything that was any kind of an unsafe event. But that is something that we are very, aware of and think about. It's a priority for us, not only for our participants, but also for the dancers, avoiding putting them in situations. They often want to do things that we don't want them to do. Ramses is frequently reining them in. So we're very careful of that. And then we also are careful with our equipment. So when we're on location, we always have someone with us, working with us, who looks out for our equipment. So if we keep it in a spot and we are cognizant of where it is, because you don't want to give people an opportunity to take something. And we've never had an issue. I haven't. Ramses might have other stories to tell, but we're real careful about all of that. When you go down, we recommend getting trip insurance in the event that you get ill or can't travel, but there's also health insurance that comes with your airline ticket. It's rolled into the cost of your ticket. It's negligible. You don't even really notice it as a difference in the ticket cost. And I've unfortunately had to go to the hospital twice over the years. I had a kidney stone one time, and I ate raw sushi and got sick. And both of those times I used, you present your airline ticket as your proof of insurance. I didn't pay anything, either visit. And I got drugs, saw doctors. So this health insurance is for you when you're there. It's actually required. You can't not buy it. It's built into the cost of your ticket. And it lets you go to the emergency room if necessary. We even had a woman one time who arrived in Havana ill, and she had to spend a week in a Cuban hospital. And she ended up paying $15 for a week-long stay. So as you can see, it's pretty good. The other thing you'll want to get is trip insurance of some kind. There are different companies out there that offer different sorts of deals. We work with a travel agency in Canada who also offers travel insurance, and you can get that through them. They can help us with our ticketing also. And I recently learned about a new company that it was recommended to me by some colleagues, and it's supposed to be a very good one. I can't speak to it personally. I haven't used it, but they say it's very good. So we do recommend that you have trip insurance, just in the event that you become ill and maybe need to be get home or anything like that. or if you're unable to make the trip due to illness. So where do we stay when we go to Cuba? We prefer to stay in a casa, which is like a B&B. Since the pandemic, we've chosen not to do that. And we've stayed in hotels that are okay for Americans to stay in. These are hotels that are not Cuban owned, and they're all wonderful. The Inglaterra is where we stayed on our last trip, which was wonderful. We've been to the Park Central Hotel. Both of those are right downtown Havana, on the Prado, which is kind of the boulevard that runs down from the Malecon and the harbor all the way through town. So it's a very great location for both of these hotels. The National is a little bit in a different location, but it is probably one of the premier hotels. It's, was really big during the 30s, 40s, 50s, and it's a historic hotel, wonderful. So those are some of the places that we stay. And if things improve a little bit, we may end up going back to casas in the future. We get asked a lot of questions about food in Havana, and is it safe to eat? Is it safe to drink? And you do want to not drink the tap water, just like going to other countries, Mexico or whatever. You can get bacteria from the water that we're not used to, and our systems won't tolerate. So we make sure that we have bottled water on our trips. We have someone in Cuba collecting that for us so that we have it when we're there. And then the restaurants we go to, I have to say, when I first started going down there in 2014, the restaurants weren't all that great. But in the last, 8 years or so, they've become wonderful. I mean, and we go to some of the best restaurants in Havana, and you'll find local cuisine, and you'll find other kinds of food as well. But some of the best meals I've ever had have been at restaurants that we go to in Havana.
Let me add something real quick there, Rad, so they
Yeah.
can have full understanding about what the meals is, because they don't know. Well, the restaurants that we're visiting, it's any tour, the highest end tour, any company that will bring groups to Cuba, we are eating in the best and absolutely the best restaurants that we have in Cuba. There's nothing better than the one that we're seeing and we're visiting. So you can have an idea of wherever we are, whatever you're seeing, that's as good as it gets. So you understand that's kind of what we are providing, the top restaurants that we have in Havana. Just to make sure, because I just want to make clear that it's not because we are a photography tour that and there is any other group that's doing any better than us. That's it. There is nothing better than that. I take good care of visiting only the very best places in Havana.
And I can sure attest to that. And, on our trips, that's something that we provide all food. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner is all covered in the fee for our trip. So it's just it's a lot easier than trying to everybody have separate checks going out places. It can drive you crazy. So yes, we do eat well. Transportation, we always have a local driver and usually a van or a small bus. We only have 7 people on our trip, or six people on this trip, and so we don't require a giant bus. But we have something that's very nice and adequate for us. It's air conditioned, and our driver gets us to where we want to go every day. A lot of times it's locations outside of Havana or throughout the city. And then occasionally we do walk the streets, but our van is never too far away. So most of the time we aren't lugging around a lot of equipment very far. So that is always nice to know that our gear is nearby and it's safely locked that way, and so on. And speaking of transportation, also, just to let you know, I didn't mention this before, but if you travel with us to Cuba, we work with an agency in Canada. You're welcome to do your own ticketing, and that's fine. But if you want to have help with that, we do have our agency that will help do ticketing. And even if you book your own flights, we coordinate with you so that we're all arriving in Havana within a narrow window of time. We provide all the transportation from the airport to the hotel, and we try to do that in a way that we minimize those trips back and forth. So you won't be stranded at the airport, wondering who's going to come pick you up. The part that I'm going to turn this over to you, Ramses. This is really your bailiwick, and tell us about the dancers that we photographed.
Well, usually, I mean, like some of you know, we try to schedule 2 sessions a day minimum. There are some days that, like some of you know, that we've been able to squeeze 3 in one day. We also know how hard this could be and how tired we finished, right? All those who's been in our previous groups. So I would say that we will try for the first, all the first few days to do at least 2 sessions, one usually in the morning around 8 or 9, and we will do a second one in the afternoon somewhere between 3 and 4, always with, or we try to work with 2 dancers each. So that makes it like 4 dancers every day. We combine different genders, like we do ballet, we do contemporary, we do flamenco, we do Afro-Cuban, and we're always open. And I mean, I'm always open. I've been doing some research and see if we can find even some maybe less known or more like a mixed, like a fusion. There is a couple of companies in Cuba right now that are doing some sort of like a fusion, like a genre, like they do like a contemporary, but they add a flamenco thing. So I'm trying to get to those 2. And but I mean, in general, we will be doing 4 dancers a day, and that would make for 5 days 20. And we also, I mean, when possible, we will have an entire company, like where this image was taken. Actually, I'm sure you've been there. No, not all of everyone is going to be seeing and been there, but we would have like an entire company with maybe around, I would say, musicians and dancers. We're looking at like 30 people that they will be most of the time performing just for us. Locations. Well, it's hard. Cuba, it's an island, and what we're doing right now, I mean, I have right now, I know, I mean, I've been, like I said before, I've been doing this for a really long time, and I'm kind of more leaning right now these days to not only find the locations because they are iconic locations or because they're known. I mean, I always like to do 1 or 2 or 3, right? But I'm also kind of more leaning to the everyday life in Cuba. I don't think I mean, I think we've done a lot of the lighthouse and these are, yeah, we can do some, but I'm also kind of more now leaning like driving with the van. I mean, Cuba is changing all the time. You guys know there is always a new color, a new graffiti, a building that wasn't and is not there anymore. Unfortunately, there are always things happening, and I'm kind of feeling like hunting more in order to do so. That's why these last couple of trips we're sometimes driving, and I just tell the driver stop the van, and we come out in trying to do something different. Because I mean, the whole point of this it's that like at least, and if you're going to repeat any location, I always try to go, I mean, and go back into our previous workshops and pick different dancers, different outfits, and even if it is on the same location, different areas to shoot inside the same location in order to try to provide a different experience. But I mean, like I said, it's an island, and we will hit these locations, these iconic, these like must do locations, but we're really pushing hard for like bringing this into like a more everyday Havana life rather than iconic. And it's something that we also discuss with the group, I mean, on every trip, we have a Zoom meeting with the participants. We talked about all these points, and if anybody has any specific idea or request, of course, we make that happen. But it's a mix of, it's a little bit of a combination. So looking for at the end of the week that everyone goes home with a different image, different dancers, different outfits, not trying to repeat yourself.
Well, and Ramses, I'll just pitch in there too. This become really important because a number of people, some of them on our call tonight, have been with us multiple times for the same work, the same dance workshop. And, Ramses works really hard to make sure that it's uniquely different from the last trip as much as possible. So always looking for those new opportunities.
They're not making my life any easier. We are on the fourth trip of some of these participants, and I'm kind of running out of options. So, I mean, I have to reinvent. We all have to reinvent ourselves, but we will. We will. It's a good problem.
So one of the things, we're there to help you and we'll do as much as we can to help you. But we expect that you're going to know your camera, how to operate it. Understanding the exposure triangle can help. And we ask people to bring a copy of their manual because we may run into an issue that we really need to dig into. Most of the time, between the two of us, we've had enough experience with a variety of cameras that we're going to be able to help you. But having a knowledge of your equipment really helps when we get into doing the things that we do, especially with flash and so on.
And we've been doing this for so long, Rad. Let me just kick in here. We've been doing this for so long that we kind of identify what the skill level of the group at, and we divide ourselves. So always one of us is going to try to go and help the higher skill level, and the other one is going to try to aim for the lower skill level in order to help them to get the same experience. So don't worry if you are not at like a high end, like you don't have like high skill levels. You don't. Maybe if you only brought your phone, you're golden because Rad is going to take care of you. If you brought a big camera and you don't know how to use it, we either him or me, we will try to help you and we'll divide it. That's the beauty of being two of us because we can split and each one of us will take care of a different skill level. Photographing. Do you want me to go on this one, Rad?
Yeah, why don't you, Ramses? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. The what I always tell that, I mean, you guys have been most of you have been on our groups before. Always try to, I mean, Cuba, it's rich, it's beautiful. You got so much those backdrops. Anywhere you go, it's always something beautiful. So I always try to I encourage everyone to do 4 main shots, like one shot that talks about everything, whatever is going on this, like this image that you're seeing right here, right? You could have actually zoom in and take those beautiful, portrait of their faces, intense, or you could just go back like I did and shoot a wide shot that tells everything, where they are, what's going on. It's the old city, the cathedral square, everything. So, and then once you do that, those 4 shots, like one for the whole thing, one for the full length, one for the medium sort of crop, and one for the really tight close up, I would suggest you to use a flash. We will provide a flash and a trigger for each one of you. And I suggest you to try that. And I also encourage you to turn off the flash at some point and shoot without the flash. I mean, there is always plenty of time to do all of it. And doing that will help you when you go back home and you look at all these images on the computer, will help you understand how the light works. What are the benefits? What if you don't like the light? What if you hate it? What if you love it? What if you decide to start doing your flash all the time? I mean, because that's actually, I would say on my side, the biggest point of all this workshop is try to do like an introduction to the flash, to the outdoor lighting world, and see if you like it, and also show you how much you can take out of it. So we will provide the flashes, we will provide the triggers, and we will have, each one of you will have your own flash, your own trigger. I will help or Rad with all the camera and flash settings, and then, well, you will find out that after the second day you can do on your own, and by the last day you're an expert. You can tell us what to do. You can maybe go and talk about the mobiles and the infrared, Rad. That's mostly you.
Well, yeah, I like I said, I always have my iPhone around too, and you know, a lot of times I like shooting with ambient light. I've learned to love photographing with flash. You know, if you look at this photograph of Ramses here, a part of what makes this photograph, this is done with a remote flash, and you can see this part of the image and the dancers, all the shadows have been kind of taken out, so it's just you hardly notice the flash, but it really brings the detail and focuses on the dancer. With the iPhone, a lot of times, some of the things that we can do with the phone now using portrait mode. I just love photographing and making portraits of our dancers. We'll share some images of those, and the iPhone does a wonderful job of that. And with the later model phones, if you're fortunate to have the 12, 13, or 14, especially the 14, we're now able to get a 48 megapixel image and shoot in low light and photograph in RAW. So we're not really sacrificing a lot in terms of quality when we use our mobile phone today. So I'm constantly looking for opportunities where we can put our mobile phones to use too. I think, Ramses, you've kind of addressed this a little bit. We have had people of all skill levels on our trips, and we do our best to work with everyone at the level they're at. Flash is new to many of us. I know when I started working with Ramses, I had not done this kind of flash, and so for most people, the flash is a new experience. And Ramses is excellent at breaking it down. Talking about how to read the light, determine the intensities, and will often, help provide settings as a starting point, and then you can move from there. So don't feel intimidated if you haven't done that kind of photography before.
But it's not difficult. It's really not difficult. And I'm sure, like Peggy, you've been in these trips before, and I mean, you can tell. I mean, the people can tell. At the beginning, it's a little bit intimidating, but at the end, once a couple of days go by, you kind of get your way around, and it's basically understanding the way it works. And once you get that, it just become like a tool, right?
Right. It's fabulous, actually.
Well, one of the things that I'm really proud of, and I think Ramses is too, is that we've had so many repeat clients. And I think that says a lot about, they've enjoyed what we do, they've learned from us, and they've come back, some as many as 3, I think 4 times for some. So that speaks a lot, I think, to the kinds of experience this is. We did want to share with you just a couple of, these are some of the testimonials that we've had from people. Some of them are in the audience tonight, just to give you an idea of some of the comments that we get. And it always makes us feel really good to know that, people come away from this experience feeling so good about the photographs that they've made. Just a couple more here. So we wanted to share those just to kind of, toot our own horn a little bit. We do take a lot of pride in the workshop and the fact that so many people have been so happy with the experience. So that concludes part one of our presentation tonight. I'm going to send you these slides. There are hot links in here. This is a link that takes you out to our website for this workshop that we have coming up in February. And everybody's registered tonight for this, and we're not going to take your emails and add them to our mailing list, but we would love for you to subscribe. This is my monthly newsletter. Ramses and I, will, if you subscribe, we will include you in future emails that we send out about the other things we're doing. And we share tips and inspirational photos and discounts in some cases, all kinds of things. So if you're of a mind, go ahead and click this button and subscribe and be added to our list that way. While I'm pulling up these next slides, I'm going to go ahead and get us set up. If there are any questions at this point, I'll invite you to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question or two, and then we'll move on to the rest of the presentation.
Rad,
Yes.
I would like the people that here that don't know you, that don't know Ramses, and haven't had the absolute fabulous time in traveling with you to Cuba, to understand that this is a great, great opportunity. There's tremendous value in what you do for the people, putting all this together, organizing the fabulous, super people that we get the opportunity to photograph. And it's one of my highlight trips I've ever done and Jill's ever done. And I recommend it extremely highly. I just have to hold back and try to decide when I'm going to go back. But it's just a great, great trip, and it's a safe trip. And you meet some other fabulous people that are friends of Rad's and Ramses and Ramsey, the god Ramses down there. Everybody knows Ramses.
It's true.
It's a small town. Just put it that way.
Yeah, well, Joe, thank you very much. And
Thank you, Joe.
And your check will be in the mail here in the next day or so. No, really, we really appreciate that. We had a great time with you and Jill, and as we had with many others. And so thank you for sharing that with us.
Do we need to bring a tripod?
I've never seen Ramses photograph with a tripod ever, that I can remember. I bring one, but I often don't use it. So when we're photographing dancers, you need to be nimble. You need to be able to move, and it's really not necessary for the dance photography that we do for the most part.
For these new common workshops, we already had a discussion about the multi-flash photography. If that's the case, I mean, I have nothing against a tripod. I mean, I believe the tripod it takes a specific reason. A lot of the times, because of the dynamics, and whoever is being on the workshops understands that we're moving fast. The dancers are moving fast. You get all excited. You want to get the shot. Then she's jumping. Then all of a sudden she moves to the other side. And then another dancer jumps in and you get all, excited and you want to get it all. And then the tripod becomes a little bit of a problem because you sometimes, I like when I set up the shoot, there is always or usually a specific angle that I think is where the dancers are posing mainly, and everybody wants to shoot or somewhere around that area, and it becomes a little bit of a problem. Now, for the multi-flash that we're planning to do, some of the 2 sessions of that, I think we could do it. I think we will rearrange everything differently, and you can use that. We will actually, the best way to use the multi-flash is it's obviously with a tripod, because you can kind of have it steady and just follow up or whatever emotion it's going on. And you can bring it, but for the entire time, to use it every single day, I would say maybe a monopod will kind of, if you have any, if you like to shoot on a low shutter speed and you kind of wanna have that as a theme, I would say you can use a monopod that doesn't really take a lot of room and use that. That could be an option, but I will definitely, like we promised, we will make sure on the multi-flash sessions, at least for a couple of them that we're going to do, that we will allow whoever wants to use a tripod to use it. We'll make sure that we will be on an open space, and I will have all the possibilities ready to do it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
And, for those of you who photograph with your mobile phones, I said I didn't usually take a tripod, but if you look at, I don't know if you can see what I'm holding up here. This is a tripod for the iPhone. Fits in my pocket, and I have taken many photographs with this by putting it on the malecone on the wall, looking out over the harbor or other places wherever I can find a stable thing. And it also has a bottle opener, so I've opened lots of bottles of Cuban beer with it.
I'm curious to know if if you're assigned a guide from Cuba that travels with you the whole time.
We do.
Yeah.
We have an assistant that will be with us, taking care of us, helping us. We have a driver. We will have a driver just for us the entire time with a van that will be with us for the entire time. And there will be an assistant that will help us to carry the flashes, will help you to carry a bag if you need to, and it will be watching our bags. And I mean, not because there is anything to be worried about. It's just that sometimes we get, like I said, we get so excited and we leave a bag behind and we leave a lens behind. And well, it's not like Cuba is a dangerous place, but if you leave a lens that everybody knows is $1,500 behind, well, there is a chance that someone might take it. So there will be at least one person with us the entire time taking care of us.
Yeah.
Which also happened to be a doctor, by the way. So if you have any issues, he can also take care of you. And this is not a joke.
Yeah. Well, and Jane, remember, Ramses grew up in Havana, so he is our guide too. I mean, he's directing everything in terms of where we go and finding the location. So very important to have that person when you're traveling in Cuba.
Oh yeah, I went in 2015 with global partners, and we had someone provided, I believe, by the government, a driver and a guide, and then we had our own guide from the group we went with. So it was interesting because one was from China and theirs, of course, was Cuba, and the two of them had some really interesting conversations because they both came from, basically communist countries. So it added to the flavor of what we were doing.
No, time has changed, Jane. Things are not like that anymore. I don't like to have someone telling me what to do.
Right.
I'm not. Those are old times, and they try to put in us a regular tour guide, but I never accepted it, and I would never, and I never will. I mean, I have been doing this longer than any of those guides. I know better. I don't think it makes any sense for us. I get it. Back in the day, it used to be like that. Things of Cuba. I mean, it's the way it was. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying that I never agreed to it. And especially because they were never able to understand how photography works.
Right.
It was always a problem for me to be with a regular guide, because they would get desperate, they would get all anxious and frustrated, because sometimes we would spend 1.5 hours shooting a door. That's it. That's simple. We find a beautiful door and we wanted to get every possible angle, and we would literally be an hour shooting a door. And they can't understand why would we need so much time to do that? And then I just realized that we were in different worlds, and that was the day that I decided that we will not have a regular tourist guide with us ever, because it doesn't add anything. So what we have, it's someone that it will be only focused on or safety.
Right.
Taking care of we are good, no one get lost, no equipment get lost. I mean, and we get our waters basically on our own well-being, nothing to do with our jobs.
Great. That sounds good. Very good.
Same
So
with the driver. Same with the driver. It's a driver. If I say to the driver, you're driving at 3 a.m, he's gonna be ready. Same thing. I've been there long enough to already fix those problems. Those are part of the past now.
Sure. Sure. Good.
So
Good.
Connie Grant here I have a couple of questions. One is, are you going to be sending us a packing list for the February trip? And is Wi-Fi readily available? My camera manual is in Dropbox, so I need Wi-Fi to be able to access that. And about money, cash, that kind of thing.
You want to do that, Rad?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot, Ramses. You can jump in. So, Wi-Fi. So, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Wi-Fi in Cuba, and in my experience, while it can work, it really is so dependent on where you are, where you're staying, time of day, all kinds of things. You really don't want to rely on it. And that's my experience. You can purchase these cards that have time on them that let you access those, but I even find those to be very unreliable in my experience. So, I mean, you can. I tell people not to think about Wi-Fi and that kind of connection while they're in Havana. Is it possible? Yes, but that's kind of my 2 cents. Ramses, you might have something to add to that.
This is what we have come to, Connie. So the way that works, the way these workshops works. Have you been before to Cuba?
No, not to Cuba. No.
Okay, well, so the reason I'm asking is because if you ever been to Cuba in a different kind of workshop, like let's say like in a tourism, like getting to know the cigars and the Hemingway Cuba, which is what most of the people do. It's this workshop. It's a hardcore, intense content creation workshop. This is not a chill out and drink mojitos workshop. I've just made it that very clear. If that's what you're thinking, it's not going to happen like that. We might have a chance to have a drink at the end of the day, and you're going to be so tired that you're just going to want to quick finish a drink and go to sleep. This is a content hardcore workshop for photography. And the reason I'm saying this is because you won't have a lot of chances, a lot of times with that you want to use your internet to do anything because you won't have the time. You're going to be on the go. You're going to be in the bus, heading to a location. You're going to be shooting the location. You don't want to miss what's going on in the shoot. You want to get in the van, go back, have lunch, take a half hour, an hour break, but get in the van again, go out again, shoot again, and every day repeats. It's basically a content creation and learning process. What you're going to have, I will have internet. If you ever need a phone that connects right away with the line in US, I will always be carrying a phone that calls directly and immediately to US, and it has internet. Rad is also going to have a phone with the same conditions. Any one of us, if you need to go home, if you need to get a phone call, anything you need, you got it right away, anywhere you are at any time. So internet, Wi-Fi, usually it's in the hotel. When you go back for the break, you're downloading your images in the evening. If you're not tired, which I doubt, maybe in the first day, after the second day, you are going to be really tired. You can get online and you can do all your posting. You can do everything that you need on it. But I would say try to, schedule or program yourself to have internet a little bit in the afternoon. Well, you're going to have it in the morning before breakfast. You're going to have it somewhere in the afternoon. If we have time to take a break, which usually I'm telling Rad that it would be good to have like an hour or 2 hours break after lunch to, recharge, download your photos, check the batteries. That's going to have it. And then you're going to have it, of course, after dinner when you go up to your room. You will have Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Is it like
So
a US Wi-Fi? 5G,
That's
10G?
all I wanted.
Oh, yeah, you will. Is it?
Yeah.
But it won't be a 5G, 10G, 20G US internet. Okay?
Well, like I said, I only wanted it for my camera manual because it's
Oh,
online.
no. Oh, no. Totally fine. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
And if you need
yeah.
it,
And
Connie,
I signed up specifically because it is a photographer.
no, but if you need
Oh,
it,
I'm counting
remember,
on that. Count me in.
I'll have it here. I'll have it in my phone 24/7, full internet. And anything you need to make a phone call. Actually, not even in an internet. If you need to make a direct phone call to US for any situation, you got my phone right away and you're free to use it. So you will be constantly able to communicate to US and also of internet. So nothing to worry about.
Hey, Connie,
Yeah.
when I help people buy new cameras, the first thing I have them do is download the PDF to their phones. Then you have it accessible all the time. You don't have to worry about internet. And the
That's
file
it.
size is smaller than some of your photographs. It doesn't
Okay.
take up a
That's
whole lot
good
of space.
Yeah.
And on the first day, we're hoping, depending on our schedules, we will be able to get together and we will sync, which is what we do every time. On the first day, once we get to the hotel, we settle, we check in, then we meet in the lobby, and then everyone brings his own camera and we will sync all cameras with the flashes, because I don't like to have a surprise the next morning that X camera is not working with X flash. So that all happens the day before, so you'd have nothing to worry. But the next morning, when we start shooting, you're going to be already connected and working.
What brand of flash equipment are you using?
I use Canon, but we have triggers for everything. We have Olympus, Sony's,
We're using
Nikon, Canon,
Godox.
Fuji,
Godox.
everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Godox is
Yeah,
the
we have the
brand.
Godox.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah,
it.
that's what I was-
Dedicated.
And I have my own trigger, so I'm good there. Yeah. And
What? Yeah, we have
I'm not
basically.
my camera either, so I'm good there too.
Yeah, I think the only one that got it is kind of having a little bit issues when it's Leica, and I think we're trying to find a way around. But besides that, I think at every other major brand, we have a dedicated Godox transmitter
Good. Okay.
and a
got it.
flash. You will have your own flash, of course.
And so, Connie, to answer your other question, as people commit to the trip, you'll receive a welcome letter from us, email, and in that there's all kinds of information about what we recommend you bring, what you should wear, what to expect temperature-wise, that kind of thing, currency, and we kind of we look at that right before we go because it's constantly changing, but we've got information about that. So typically right now, the US dollar is what we've generally used, but we have ways to convert money if we need to Cuban currency that's being used. But the US dollar is the preferred by most establishments. So we don't usually have to do a lot of money conversion these days. But again, it changes and we'll be watching that carefully. What was the rest of your question? I'm trying to remember.
That was it. Just the, like the equipment list, the Wi-Fi, and then the currency. Yeah,
Yep.
those were the.
Yeah,
So,
and all of that, again, you'll get
it.
an email that's full of all of these, the answers to a lot of these questions.
Looking forward
We
to.
will, we will have people working to assist us. There is a team. I have a team in Cuba of people. If you need to get money changed, we will send someone right away to get it done, depending on what you need, what is going on at the time. So there's nothing to worry about it.
Yeah. So you will not be able to use your American credit card in Cuba. So
Okay.
it won't work there. That's part of the trade embargo with Cuba. So what we do recommend, I always advise people to bring $1,000 in cash. You may not need that much, but I feel like I like to know I have it and not need it rather than need it and not have it. So, because you can't rely on those other forms of payment that we usually use without even thinking.
I have a question. My name is
Jack.
Yeah. I presume from what I've been gathering that in February, you have a trip to Cuba. I don't know much about it, so I appreciate all that you've discussed. Is the trip full? Is there room for additional?
Well, that's a really interesting question, Jack. We have 4 people committed, and we have several people on the fence. And the very maximum that we would take is 7. We try and keep it to 6. In the event where we have a couple who's trying to come, and we may stretch it to 7. But right now, we haven't got commitments for the other 2 spots.
Okay.
So
And the cost for that trip is how much?
The cost for the trip is $5,995. I'm going to share some information about that here. In fact, let's go ahead. I think I have that here. I'll just go right to those slides right now, and then we can go back and take a look at some photographs. Go up to the end here. And again, you'll have all these slides with this information. So this is the cost. What's included is all your meals, bottled water, lodging, all the ground transportation, model and dancer fees, and the location fees that we sometimes have to pay for the places we go. What's not included is airfare to and from Havana, the travel visa, which you'll purchase at the airport, usually about $100, give or take, depending on your airline. Any tips or gratuities, any alcohol, and then any trip insurance that you choose to get. So again, you'll have these slides so you can review that. But those are the details about that.
What are the dates? I'm sorry.
The dates for our Cuba trip are, well, that's a great question. I should have that right on the tip of my tongue here. I'll tell you here in a second.
I would like to add something, Rad, while you look for this, Jack.
Yes.
There's something that we didn't mention there, that it's also, like I said earlier, I'm not sure if you were listening, is that we will also include a flash. And that's why we kind of limit to 6, maybe we can push it to 7 people, because each one of you will have your own flash, your own trigger, and we will try to assist you, unless you know, obviously, if you are at a high skill level photographer, there is no need. I would always tell the people what the basic settings of aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and flash power you should be using, and that's kind of your starting a point. And then, well, after the second day, in my experience, you kind of know what's happening in each one of them, and you can tweak here and there to get your own image out of that, your own final outcome. But there will be a flash, and since we're doing all that, we'll try to keep it limited so we can have actually access, and we can have enough time to interact individually with each one of us in case you have questions or you need any help.
And the dates for our trip, this is the website here. The dates for our trip are February 21 to 27. And the links in the slides will take you out to this page. Describes a lot of the things that I've shared with you that we've talked about tonight. Then an email, what we'll do, we don't use any other payment methods. We'll have you, if you do decide to go with us, you'll pay directly to us, and we'll provide that information with you at the time you make the commitment. Let's take a minute and look at some of these photos. This is one of the things we were really looking forward to sharing with you tonight. And then if there are still other questions, we can get to as many of those as we can.
And feel free to ask if you have any questions, technical question. How do we get it? What lighting was used? Please feel free to ask.
So the photographs here have been taken over, I don't know, I guess since about 2015, up to our last trip this year in February. For me, some of mine are iPhone as well as Fuji. This is an iPhone image that I took years ago. It's one of my favorite images. I did what I do and stylized the image a little bit. One of the examples of the kind of portraits that I like to do.
It's important, this image right here, Rad. I know there is whoever of those have been before in our trips. I am always exploring houses. I mean, Havana and Cuba, as you guys know, it's always like a magic backdrop. And my goal on those images is to create always stories that connect the beauty of the dance sometimes with the contrast of what the reality of Cuba, whatever that reality is. I'm never trying to diminish my country. I never try to, never the point it's a political way to criticize or do in any way the country. I'm just merely showing the reality of what it is. And part of the reason that I picked this backgrounds, which by the way, that's a real house. I haven't touched anything. I never moved a single book or anything. I literally brought the dancer to the house, asked her to pose, and did the shot. There's nothing staged or changed, or except, of course, a little bit of the color and the edit that I did. And that is actually part of what we're trying to do in every one of these trips. I'm always chasing for houses and interiors that also show Cuba, that also show the reality of Cuba. It could be this, it could be something much, much better and prettier, or the contrary. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm not actually trying to make any other statement rather than the contrast of the beauty and the background. That is actually, and we will be also doing new interior locations for this coming trip. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Yeah. This is my photograph. Again, a lot of times we have some downtime between the dancers posing for us, and I saw this scene with the dancer wistfully looking out the window, and her partner standing closer using a narrow depth of field, got this photograph. And one of the things I've learned from Ramses over the years is looking for ways to layer a photograph where you have something, often a foreground, middle ground, and background. And that's what I was trying to achieve with this photograph.
Well, I guess this says it all. I mean, it's like Rad just said. I'm always looking for the story behind the picture. I mean, it's a beautiful dancer, yes. Beautiful jump, yes. We have in the columns that, to me, it says Cuba, like Alejo Carpentier, one of our main writers, once said, Cuba, Havana. He actually called the city of the columns. So it's very easy to identify Havana because of the columns. But if you looked at here, this gentleman that it was just watching it, to me, is what really makes the image. It's just like an element that adds and helps to tell the story. It's not just the beauty, it's the contrast, it's the entire story laid out in different, layers.
This is an iPhone image, again, taken, this is at Morro Castle. Background of the sky was incredible that day. One of our participants, Peggy, I think it was you, brought the dresses that the dancers wore for us when we took this photo. So just a really wonderful opportunity to show the dancers' style and strength and grace.
Sometimes time to take a break. I mean, she jumped all afternoon. She was tired. She needed a break. She actually, which is funny, whoever knows about dance, dancers see it in all kind of real funny ways. Sometimes they stand on their toes for no reason because they have been doing it for the last 15 years. So, I mean, I just thought that it would be a cool story. It would be something very unusual to have like that kind of, chill. She's chilling, by the way. She's taking a break and at the same time looking at a beautiful sunset.
Mm.
No pose.
This was taken in one of the houses that we photographed in many times. And this is an example of an ambient light photograph, no flash involved in this at all. And again, I love the background, the story of the home that she's in. That's gosh, I'm 100 years old, I'm sure. And her posture and position, the way the light's striking the front of her body and the side of her face. It's almost black and white, but there's a hint of color left in it.
Well, I had those wings, and there are dancers and dancers. These dancers, I mean, you can't see her face, and I'm sure all those who've been to Cuba before know who she is. Her name is Camila. She's one of my, I would say, 2 or 3 muse. Anything you do with her is always going to be great. And I did a previous couple of shots with these wings, and I was not really happy, but I knew that the minute I would have her along, something great was going to happen. So we went into the Metropolitan Park in Havana. There was a lot of mosquitoes. There were a lot of bugs. We were having a terrible time, and I can tell you that she was good enough, like amazing, in order to get a shot like that and a couple of others in less than 10 minutes. We had to literally run out of the Metropolitan Park. It was too much. It was too late, too many bugs. But, well, I guess in 10, 15 minutes, we got lucky. That's the quality of the dancers that we're working on.
And yeah, Camilla is definitely one of our favorites. She's just beautiful. This photograph was also taken in one of the homes that we photographed in. And, a lot of the times when we're working with dancers, we're directing them. In this case, Ramses was directing this dancer on what to do, and she was twirling and spinning. And, again, when we're doing this, I try and stay out of the way of our participants and let them get the shot. I just happened to be where I was. And this is an iPhone photograph. I just quickly grabbed my iPhone and snapped this photograph with her billowing gown. And it was just a really fun time and a fun image to make. And a great example of what the iPhone's capable of.
That's a great collaboration, Rad, between you and Ramses. Incredible photograph.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Walking on the streets, paying attention, looking at like this street. It's sometimes, like I said, I don't like to set up locations. I like to set up an area that we're supposed to be. We have the van driving like a block behind us in case somebody needs a lens or needs something out of the van. And we're just walking on the street and looking on every side what's in there, what can we do, what is an option, what could we actually create. And sometimes you just find these houses, random stairs, and then it happens. I mean, and it's just basically no flash. There was no flash used on this image. It was just basically natural light. That was a beautiful light on her. And I thought that it would be a great idea. And also, I wanted to use something in the front, like Rad mentioned. I love to build an image with layers. And this layer in the front, it's good to tell you whatever you like to read out of it. So, and it also creates a depth in the image that it makes the attention goes into the dancer even more. Well, not that she needs any more attention. It's a beautiful, talented dancer, but was kind of the idea.
Beautiful. This was during our session with the Afro-Cuban dancers. As Ramses said, there's almost 30 musicians and dancers, and they were performing for us, for our group. And so I turned my camera on the musicians and these drummers, and got this incredible, intense look on this particular drummer. Absolutely one of the most dynamic experiences that I've had photographing. You have just the music happening. It's very, cacophonous, and then to be able to make a photo like this, that was really exciting.
Well, my feelings were the opportunity we had with those people. They were so super. I could have missed everything else and still felt I got a great value.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, it's pretty incredible what they do for us.
Well, it's interesting. I've known this dancer, like most of them, for like 10, 15 years. And then she came up to me and she said, well, I got this new tattoo, which, by the way, it's a real tattoo. It's not a Photoshop thing. And he said, well, we definitely need to find a way to make it stand out and take a nice portrait of the tattoo. And she has beautiful legs. She's a very tall dancer, kind of unusually tall for the regular ballet. And I just thought that I needed to find a way to be able to portrait the tattoo and her legs. And there's nothing that the contrast of those bricks which was and a rooftop, actually, war in a rooftop. It was almost like a dangerous thing. We have to have somebody helping her, because I was too scared that she might slip down and fell out of the balcony. She was actually standing on the balcony in Old Havana.
Wow.
It's the kind of stuff that we have to deal. You see this and you can't imagine what's going on behind, right? Yeah.
Very cool.
I was terrified. I don't know how I got the shot, because I was more worried about her falling down and dying rather than me taking the photo.
Very cool.
This is another one of the drummers at the Afro-Cuban session from one of our trips. Again, I just found him to be incredibly photogenic, and in addition to a great performer. This is a big camera photograph with a shallow depth of field, and just a very expressive face, and obvious strength in his upper body from the drumming that he does.
Well, of all the dance, flamenco, that it's, to me, well, I can say I don't think I have a favorite, but flamenco, it's such an intense, we as Cuban inherited, the Spain culture. One of the best things we got out of our Spain culture in our colonization was the flamenco. We have schools as serious and important as the ballet, actually, school, where kids start in a very early age. And we have like the Flamenco National Company, that just an extremely successful company. They perform all over the world. And these are two of the main dancers, also teachers of the flamenco school. I thought that lowering the camera, I was literally putting the camera on the ground, will increase the perspective, the dynamism of the image. And well, being in Old Havana, was in the Old Havana area, and using the flash, I think you can't go wrong. We will be also shooting on this common trip some flamenco dancers.
This is ambient light photograph. This was also in one of the old houses that we photographed. This was several years ago. It's a Fuji X-T2 photograph, and just another beautiful pose with our dancer, where she would stand in the way she's standing, and then she drops her skirt and catching it just at that point. Just so much fun to photograph these athletes.
Different genre, contemporary dance. These guys, I mean, if I'm worried about the ballet dancers, I'm always terribly worried about the contemporary dancers because they are used to it in their everyday life to do extreme posing and dancing, and they bring their bodies to basically the extreme physical challenge to the point that it's scary sometimes the things they do. Same here, no Photoshop, nothing but lighting. We used a flash outside the window. I'm sure you can see that. I mean, I wanted to keep it everything dark so we can kind of focus the attention on the dancers, and they are actually a couple, and they just this amazing jump. I honestly, that's what I was just saying earlier, that I sometimes believe they can levitate or they can fly, because that's a real image. It's nothing. There's no Photoshop in here. They were literally able to do this and jump this height, and using this side lighting outside the window, it allows to focus entirely the attention on them.
This is an abandoned complex that it's actually not accessible to us anymore. It's really become too dangerous to go in. But having, I just look part of what I love about this is this juxtaposition that we have of a beautiful dancer against the backdrop of Havana, and you know, this is a perfect example of that. I liked making the silhouette of her framed by the building, and of course the sea in the background.
Prado. Everyone knows, if you've been to Cuba, about Prado. It says it all. It's got the architecture. It's got every single style. It's got that beautiful lighting set when it's working. I mean, it's got all these people walking around. It's like an iconic place. When I was talking about the beginning, that there's some places that you definitely need to shoot. I mean, change here over there, and always make sure that you create something different. But I mean, I truly love to shoot there. Every time I do, there's something different, and it brings a very urban vibe of. That's what I intentionally asked the dancers to dress like that. I mean, this was all intentional. I basically asked them to bring some kind of urban outfit that would be kind of contemporary, not classic, nothing fancy. And this is what happens. I mean, you just wait, you have people walking around you, kids running around you. And well, if you wait on your patience, this is what happens.
Well, it's a great example of how the flash just freezes the motion of our dancer.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Yeah, remember, I told you guys, always make sure when we're doing this to take at least one shot without a flash. It would be the best way for you to tell the difference.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a cool juxtaposition.
It
Yeah.
brings you, it gets you with all the layers. It gets you, it's Cuba in the back.
Yeah.
It's a way, it's what we do. And to me, it's a combination. I mean, I'm always willing to do studio photography in Cuba, but I think that Cuba is so rich on
Right.
everywhere you go, everywhere you look, that it's kind of a waste to do a studio in a way, unless you're doing it in a very specific way, because Cuba has so much to offer all the
Well, that's-
time, right?
Cuba is just a great background for everything.
It
And
is.
it's a nice way to share with other people, to educate them about all the things that Cuba is.
Yes,
So I think
that's what we're trying to do here. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Was that shot at F11?
Thank you.
Yeah. Neat. Neat.
So this is a composite that I did. One of the things I enjoy, these are iPhone images, and I do enjoy creating stylized images. And this was this dancer portrait, profile portrait, and then the dance, and combining those two. And I just had fun with those two different moods of dance, kind of an introspective piece of it, and then the beauty of the pose.
And you did that with the iPhone, Rad?
Yes, I believe these are both iPhone images, and it was combined in an iPhone app called Snapseed.
Oh, okay. I've worked with that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Thank
That's
you.
Different angle, a different situation in the same location. That's what we talked previously. That's the Morro Castle. It's a beautiful fortification. It's one of the largest fortifications that the Spanish colony built in entire Latin America. And there, every time we've been there a few times, but every time we go there, we try to find a new area, a new location, bring in different dancers, different outfit. That's an example of how can we use multiple times the same location, always creating a different image.
This is also, I believe this is also an iPhone image, and I processed it in such a way. I had been exploring encaustic work. If any of you have ever worked with encaustic, it's like a layer of wax over an image, and I processed it in that way to make it appear to be an encaustic type image. What I love the serpentine, form of her body, and the way it, just kind of moves in an S curve. And I just had a lot of fun making this photograph.
Did you do that in Snapseed also?
Some of it was Snapseed, and I'm not sure what the texture is. It could have been it could have been another app, maybe Formulas, or that may be a flypaper texture. I'd have to go back and look, but it's a texture laid on top of the straight image, which was processed in Snapseed.
Formulas, yes.
Yeah, and this is before a lot of us were using Lightroom on the iPhone. Today, I do a lot of my processing in Lightroom Mobile, which I think is one of the best raw editors that we have for mobile photography today.
And if you need any help, Jane, with that, just going to give you a quick tip. If you ever decide to do the encaustic for real, I'm more than happy to help you. I've been doing that for the last 5 to 8 years, and I know a little bit about it. It's not hard to, it is difficult. I mean, you got to work somebody, but it's not really hard to do. It's just basically melting the wax and the damar resin on it and working with your heater gun, and you will get, and it's just an accomplishment like that. It's possible. It's actually,
that would be interesting.
It's basically damar resin, wax, a heater gun, a brush made for encaustic, and a print on some sort of solid wood. That's all it would take to create it too.
So you'd apply the print to the wood and then do the wax on top?
Yeah, it has to be on wood because you don't want to bend it after the wax is in there.
Right.
You put the print on the wood, you apply that layer, and then you have your heat gun and you create it.
Wow. Interesting.
I'm happy to tell you later. If you're interested in any more information, I'm happy to give it to you later.
Yeah, we can hang on afterwards.
Sure.
Okay. I love this image.
Afro-Cuban. Well, I mean, that's us. That's Cuba. That's what we are. We're a mix of Spanish and Africans. So it's part of our culture. It's embedded in our blood. Everyone at some point it has something that had something to do with it. It's beautiful. We worship all these African gods and goddesses. That is Jemaya, is dressed in blue, is the goddess of the waters. We have in previous workshops shot this Jemaya, this goddess in the ocean, which is actually where it belongs to. That's a thing. When we do this photo shoot, after we finish shooting the company, the entire company, usually we pick 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 dancers and we take them with us into a location that I always try to have the location related or connected to the goddess that they are dressing on. Like if we're doing Jemaya, we will go to the water. If we're doing, like, say, Shango, we will go to the park, to the jungle, and we will shoot a portrait on location over there. But that's what it is. Slow speed. I'm shooting here like in a 10 of a second, flash being used, freezing it, and at the same time getting all this beautiful movement that I love to do that. I shoot that in a 10 of a second, a 15 of a second, and it's a little bit of a, you have to, it's lucky. You need to take the right shot. But I shoot a lot, and every now and then I get something like that. That makes me happy.
Fantastic. This is one of the first experiences that I had photographing dancers. Again, in an old house, and just had her sit on one of the benches in the house. And, the shoes and the toes are so much a part of ballet. A lot of times looking for different, parts of the dancer's body to tell the story. And that's what I was doing here.
Nice.
Old Havana. Same thing. I'm asking literally the dancers to bring 2 different outfits. I'm bringing bring something formal like a tutu or something, and bring something that you would wear to go to have a coffee with your friends. And that's what happens. I mean, they're dancers. They can't stop being dancers no matter what they're dressing, or no matter where they are. The beauty shows. And that's kind of what I'm getting, is the juxtaposition of this beautiful shoes, beautiful girl on a beautiful pose on a random street where you would never expect to see something like that. And again, I always like to involve layers. If you look at the right up corner, there is a lady that was cleaning the balcony, and she was so into this that she spent the entire time that I was doing the shoot looking at what we were doing, because it's really different and impressive seeing these girls doing that amazing poses in the middle of the street.
Wow.
This is another one of the houses that we photographed in, and we just had fun having the dancers move in different ways and create different poses, often together like this. And this was one, I believe this is an iPhone image also. Again, just a wonderful opportunity to show these 2 dancers together in a great environment.
This is the same we talked earlier. I bring in the Afro-Cuban dancers on location. I think it's amazing. They show very strong. It's an amazing model. It's unbelievable. These are not just dancers. These are actors. They can get into the character and perform tremendously. Beautiful. Just a matter of wait for the right wave, water come behind them, and having them holding the pose. Flash being used here.
This was a lot harder to get than you might think. You're waiting for that wave. Not every wave splashed in the right way, but when they did, you had to be ready to get that background. And this is about as good as it gets right here, Ramses. This is wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we spent quite some time waiting for it.
Yeah. This is another, just a portrait of one of the dancers in one of the older houses. I like turning it into black and white. To me, that sort of gives it a timeless quality. There's nothing in the image that betrays its period in history. So it could have been, the 40s or something. And I think black and white for me sometimes has that effect.
This combination of the beauty of the dancers and the decade of the city, I love it. I love to combine this street in particular. I love it because it has 20 different architectural styles in the same block and colors. So there's always a great opportunities to take pictures in there. It's a combination of the beauty of the dancers and the textures and the colors of the city. And a flash of light from the right, as you can see. I put the flash completely. We're always going to be using flash upside up, as you know. to help to increase the volume and three-dimensionality.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one of the things that I've learned to love about the flash is in this particular case, you don't even you don't know the flash has happened. I mean, if you looked at this image without the flash, you would see, but it's lightened her face. It's brought it made her figural in the image, and it's so subtle. The flash is not invasive in any way.
I think that's why a lot of people don't like to use them, because they're a lot of times they're too much.
Well, they can be, and that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I think Ramses is so good at and teaches so well. That's what's made it fun for me to be involved in these.
I think it flashes like salt. You can put a little bit and it gets a good taste. If you put too much, not good.
Mm-hmm. That's a good analogy.
This is another image that I did with the iPhone and used some filters and textures. I was thinking of some of the like 1950s. I don't know what, like some of the like war 40s, 50s, like the pinup kinds of style of things. And that's what I was going for here with the texture that I used. Again, iPhone, and then stylized using those tools on the iPhone. And of course, the car is amazing and the dancer is amazing. So lots of fun.
Well, this one was a multi-image. I had a dancer. I was shooting. It was very crowded. I knew, I primarily understood that I was never going to get like a clean shot the way I wanted. So what I did a multi-image. I shot it like maybe 5 or 6, 7 images, and then I just laid them all out in order to create this image. That's one of the amazing dancers that I ever worked in my entire life, by the way.
Pretty.
This is again one of the old houses that we worked in. That's Camilla that we were talking about her earlier. Just a wonderful model for us over the years. I loved the two of them together on this whatever that is, ottoman. And again, black and white seemed to work for me here. And their positions on the ottoman and the background all come together to really make this image satisfying to me.
Same flash. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. If you find a good spot that you can get low, I was actually not that low and she was not as high as it seems. It's just basically finding the right spot and use a flash on the side, wait for the right time, and have a little bit of help from God with the beautiful clouds and so forth. And that's what you get. I mean, this is a national ballet dancer. And that's basically, I'm always impressed how easy they can do that kind of stuff. And if you ask them, can you do it 20 times? They say, yeah. Can you do it 50? And they say, yeah, I can do 50. So it's unbelievable. It's basically having a side lighting, waiting for the right time. It was late, almost like a sunset. And she had the right outfit. Also for the color to kick out.
This is another composite I had. I think about how these dancers start dancing when they're very young, and many of them matriculate up into the higher levels. And I think I was imagining what it must be like for a young dancer to dream about accomplishing that level that the older dancers have done. And so I had the shadow of the dancer in the old house and a photo of a child that I made in a different part of Cuba, and combined them into this composite.
Neat.
Thank you. This is also this is one of mine. I think this is a Fuji XT2 or XT4 image using flash. And I thought black and white worked really well on this image. I love the positioning of her body and her arm outstretched, both her arms outstretched, one reaching high, and then the way her feet are crossed in front of her, and the billowing of her dress, all of that seemed to work. The way her hair is flying, it just, to me, it said ecstasy. And oftentimes that's what it seems to me these dancers are experiencing when they're flying like this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, including the beauty, the decay, the contrast. I mean, it's always building the story, building the layers, showing the plays, I mean, it's always interesting. And this is something that I encourage at every one of the workshops to take the most out of the contrast of all the beauty of these dancers and the textures, the colors, it's like almost like an anachronic thing. And it helps to build the story. It's pretty much what everything I was looking for in this image.
Beautiful. So this is one of my favorite images from one of our trips. I believe this was last November. This is Marcos and Camilla, who are two of our favorite dancers to photograph. They're a couple, and they're just absolutely beautiful and joyful to photograph. This is using flash with the big camera. I think it was the Fuji X-T2. And again, this is what the flash can do. Highlight your dancers in this way, making those details so prominent in the image, and let the background be there for you, but the dancers are still figural and front and center. Freezes the motion. This all happens in a split second, and the flash allows you to capture something like this.
More of the flamenco. This is at the end of the Malecon. You got the water over here. Same thing with the flash. I'm lately using muscle-leaf prime lens. Most of my photos, if you look at like 99% of my work is taken with a 50 millimeters. Usually I shoot 1.2 to 1.8 aperture and the flash. So that's kind of the settings of everything that you're seeing. Just always trying to give all the protagonism to the dancer and using the city as a backdrop. That's the end of the Malecon at the very end. The Prado.
Malecon.
This is, I believe this is also an iPhone image. This is one of the most talented dancers I think we photographed, and this pose that she's doing right now is one of the most challenging in ballet. And she did this for us several times. It was a beautiful evening, sunset. I just love the warm tones and the positioning of her body in the frame. And I just am amazed at the athleticism of these dancers.
Well, we saw that one already. Same thing. Smoked. I thought that it was pretty cool. We used a flash. I used a flash from behind to try to bring all the details of the smoke. She had an amazing face. She was like, to me, she was the star of the show. I have 30 other models to shoot, and I really was blown out by the way she did and the faces. These are some of the dancers and the musicians. This is part of what we're going to have available on our next workshop.
These are all such beautiful images. I'm enjoying each one, Rad and Ramses.
Thank you.
Just great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you have questions, any questions, just please feel free to ask any technical questions, anything. I already said it's shot 1.2, 1. Something in there, 50 mil, flash in the back.
Oh.
That's sad. There's not really much more. I mean, the city, they provide the rest. You don't really have to do that much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You make it sound so easy.
It is easy. It is easy. It's got a lot to do with being in the right place at the right time. I got to be honest to you, and knowing a little bit of a flash. I mean, Like we knew the flash needs to be backwards. I mean, so we could get the smoke, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to know that. But once you know all those things, it's just a matter of shoot and a beautiful ambient light. And there is a combination of the flash and the ambient light.
Yeah.
It's only one light there. That's all we do.
Wow. Great setting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that everyone that's on this talk that has been down there, you could do your own, each one of us could do the slideshow and show you images that are spectacular. I'm not going to take anything away from these, but everyone that's there has these kinds of images.
And and you know what? That's the beauty of going on a workshop like this. I mean, you will get some awesome images.
Yeah, for sure.
And you move around, and once we're done with this, you can take your own model, you can do your own shot, your own lighting, entirely creating your own setup. By the way, it's also available.
Sure. So if we want to go, what do I need to do?
Email me and let me know you're interested, and I'll send you the information. As I mentioned, we are on the edge of being full for this workshop. We will certainly do others, but the February one, it's kind of based on who contacts us first, because we do take such a small group.
I sent you a note already.
Who is that?
Jane.
Jane.
Comes up as Jane.
Oh, Jane Ruprecht?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Jane. I'll look for your email and send you the information. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
This concludes our slides for tonight, and just a couple of, we looked at some of these already. I just want to remind you that, like when we do this, what we're about is, you getting the photos that you envision. And we really are there to help you all the time. We do photograph alongside of you, but mainly so we can show you what we're seeing in terms of composition and flash settings and that sort of thing. But you are always our priority. And I think that's something that we work really hard to do. We kind of already looked at some of this in terms of the cost and what's included. There's this will take you out to our website that describes the trip, and you'll find information on how to email me with information, for information about how to make a deposit. And then we would love it if you subscribe to our newsletter. I think I said this before. We're not going to put you in there unless you subscribe, but we would love to have you do that. That's everything we have for you tonight.
I wanted to add something, Rad, at the very end. The beauty of these small groups workshops is that we have a lot of room to custom the trip. Like on this trip that we're doing, you already have 2 participants that requested to have a multi-flash session, which we will. Now, that said, if you are interested into this kind of world, to do something specific that we are not showing here, we're always ready to hear. We're more than welcome to hear what you want, what you like to do, and try to make it happen or bring it as close as we can to what you would like to do. So think about it. If there's anything that you think that you would also like to accomplish a little bit or a lot of outside of this, just let us know, because we can custom. That's the beauty of a 6 participant trip. There we can always custom and change a little bit to some point in order to please and make everyone happy.
Neat. Yeah, I have a couple of ideas.
Awesome. We're waiting to hear.
Well, we've kept you probably longer than we intended, but we're happy to stay and answer any questions if you still have some. So feel free.
You still got more people on?
I have a question. I have a question, if I may.
Yes, Kip.
Yeah. First of all, the great presentation. It looks like a wonderful workshop, and I'd love to go someday with you guys. And I am going to Cuba this January and February. I'll be coming back before you guys get down there. But I wondered if Ramses knew of a guy named Alfonso Blanco. And the reason I ask you, I'm arranging with him to do a photo tour down there, and I just wondered if you knew anything about him.
Well, Kev, there is a lot of people. I'm an old dog. I've been 25 years running this, and I pretty much know the old dogs. After COVID, there's been a lot of new, and I'm not saying it by any means that they're good or bad. Some of them are terrific. They're amazing photographers. But after COVID, there's been a couple of photographers that decided to do this as a living. And there he might be part of that. I don't think he's an old dog because I think I would know him.
No, I don't think he is either.
Yeah. So I don't exactly know him. I would definitely love to. If you can send me a link, see his work, I would love to know him. But I mean, usually we kind of are like, I would say like a 10, maybe 15 photographers that we've been doing this more than 10, 15 years. We're old, like I am, right? So
yeah, but you're doing such great work too. You won't get any sympathy from me about being old.
Yeah, me either, Ramses. Come on.
So yeah, my point is that I don't, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be a great experience. And yeah, there's a few people that are doing this. Some are going to stay, some are not going to stay. It's I mean, it's interesting to see. I would love to see what you do after you come back and see if you're pleased with that service provider.
Yeah, me too. Exactly. And I had one other question. Is there any other? I heard that if you are a professional photographer, you have to apply in a different way than if you're just going to support the Cuban people. Do you know anything about that, or is that you just claim to be amateur?
I don't think so. I don't think so. As far as I know, I mean, unless you're doing any, are you considering to do any kind of government related project or something directly with the government?
No.
Okay, so I don't think you do, because if you are, I mean, this is a long conversation, but if you're not doing it, I don't think you need it. It would take another 30 minutes to explain the way it works if you're doing directly something with the government. But if you're not, I don't think you need to do anything but just support the Cuban people.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, because actually that's what you're doing. You're not going to be entering any official building. You're not going to be interacting with the government. So you're not going to be doing nothing but being a tourist and supporting the Cuban people.
Exactly. And I happen to be carrying a camera.
Yes, exactly. That's totally fine.
And I thought those iPhone pictures were awesome as well.
Well, those mobile phones do a great job. Ramses uses an Android phone, and I've been using iPhone forever. And you know, we both break them out throughout our trips. So sometimes to use them as a sketch pad to kind of see what we want to do with the big camera. But they're getting better and better all the time. So it's less of a compromise than it used to be.
Which one do you have, Rad?
I have the 14 Pro Max, and I have a 12 Pro also.
So it's a Pro.
I see a couple of questions right here on the chat asking about my book. Unfortunately, the book, I think it had like a 30,000 copies launch, and it's sold out. And it's by the Cuban system bought it all, and it's distributed it through the system. So what I can do, if you can reach out later and send me an email, I'll see what are the chances. I believe, since it went out right away, that they're planning a second edition. And I need to get more information of that. If you're interested, just please let me know, send me an email, and as soon as it becomes available, I will let you know. But unfortunately, this edition, basically the entire tourism system and agencies in Cuba bought it out in order to sell it in their facilities. But I'm sure they will do it again, and I'm happy to facilitate it some.
Okay.
Ramsey and Rad, I want to thank you for the memories. It was a fabulous evening that you shared with us all, and I can recommend these two as a wonderful guide through Cuba and photographing the dancers. You're going to love it. I just wish I could join you as well again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. What I'm going to do as we close tonight, this has all been recorded. Give me some time to process the recording, and I'll send you all a link to these two presentations that you saw tonight. The information, I'll make sure you have Ramses' email and information as well as mine in that message. Feel free to reach out to either one of us. And if you have questions about our trips or just about anything related to what we talked about tonight. By all means, subscribe to our newsletter and learn more about, what's going on as we create new workshops.
I already get your newsletter. Is that the one, or do you have a different one with Ramsey?
What I'll do, Jane, is make sure Ramses has your information as well, and he's working on his own newsletter too. So,
soon you'll
Okay.
receive it later. I will give you all the information, and I can hopefully give you an update about the book.
Okay, that'd be great. That'd be
Thank
fabulous. Very neat. And I'm going to catch you up later with the wax.
Sure, no problem. I can even show you some of the work I have here. Yes, I've been doing that for quite a few years. Been ready to get a lot ahead.
There you go.
It's not. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's not that easy as it seems.
Right. That's why I didn't think it was that easy.
No, it's not.
It looks like a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but you know what? It's one. I love doing it. I'm sure you will love it too.
Yeah. Well, this is exciting. Having been to Cuba, I've always wanted to go back. So this is a nice opportunity to be able to do that. And this is very different from what I normally do. So I'm in the mood for something very different. So,
Looking forward to it.
yeah, that'd be cool. Very neat. Neat.
Guys, it was a great night. I think we can go home now.
You can go home. I can go home, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for being here tonight, Bill. Peggy.
My pleasure. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to February.
Nice to meet you guys. Kip, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.